Yo everybody, welcome back to another episode of Big Avocado hosted by ya boy, Willy Boy Stimson. Today we are going to be doing a little bit different structure for a video. As always, we are going to be transforming this village that is around me that we've been transforming. In the last video, we redid that tower over there, which is looking epic, by the way. And off camera, I did a little bit of work on this fountain area. I had mentioned that I wanted to build a fountain right here, and I got her done. So here we have a little diorite fountain right here that hopefully looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. It's not like the most ornate or complex or anything, but it's, I don't know, I think it kind of, I'm wanting to incorporate some more diorite, so hopefully we can get some more builds that look like this. But I think it looks pretty good, especially that it has like actual water in it, which is awesome. It makes this desert look a little bit more oasis-y, so I think that's good generally. But yeah, today's structure is going to be a little bit different because as I have been driving, I've been doing a lot of driving recently, and as I've been on my drives, I have just been recording me talking about some of my thoughts on some just random topics that I'm either passionate about or that I feel like are relevant to the time or my age or whatever it is. And basically what I'm going to do right now is instead of just talking you through my building process, I'm going to just start building and overlaying that audio on top of me talking about things. So we're going to try it out. Maybe it'll fall flat on its face. Maybe it'll be really good. We'll see. But the idea is to try something new and hopefully create some interesting brainstorming and discussion about some really cool and relevant and important topics. So please let me know if you like this structure. I hope that it actually works, but please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear any and all of your feedback and thoughts. And yeah, thank you all for the support. I hope you're having a great day. God bless. Let's get into the video. Yo squad, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Big Avocado Talks, where your host, Willy Boy, that is me, talks about some random topic or something generally that pertains to me that I just, am feeling inspired by or passionate about and want to talk to you guys about. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Today's topic is going to be the Waco Boyz. And before you click off and you're like, I know what the Waco Boyz is, calm down. I want to approach this a little bit differently and basically tell you the entire story of how Eli and I became friends, because it's actually such a crazy story, and in all honesty, we shouldn't be friends. We couldn't be more different from each other, but we are besties till the end, and I know that we will never stop being friends. So let me tell you how that happened. Really, it all started when we ended up at the same school together. We both happened to be at this really, really small school. When Eli joined, I was at the school a few years before Eli, but then he joined, and there were only like 15 of us in a class, which, like, I don't know what school you might have come from, or, I mean, I went to a school, a private school in a small town, and there weren't a lot of us there. We were also the oldest class. From the time I was in 5th grade to the time we graduated, I was the oldest class. There was no class above me. They just added a grade every year so that my class could continue to go to this school, attend this school. And the first time I met Eli was in 6th grade when he joined the class that I was in. I had already been there since I was in 5th grade, but he joined us in 6th grade, and I actually already knew his little sister, which was crazy because she was in one of the same musical at our community theater that one of my best friends was in, so I had gone to watch and support. And I met Ainsley, and I talked to her, and then her older brother shows up in my class, and I was like, oh, there's a resemblance here. I see, I'm locked in. And for a little while, and Eli will tell you this, to my face, like, he was not friends with me and didn't want to be friends with me for a little while. Like, he really only wanted to be friends with my little brother, James, because they were both, like, super athletes, essentially. Like, my brother at that point, super, super athletic, very, very talented. And then Eli was playing basketball. He's always been a basketball player. And so he and my brother got along really well, but they didn't love me as much because at that point I was more of a nerd. Like, I played the sports, but I wasn't outstanding at the sports. I was very middle of the road. Like, I was athletic, but not to the point where I was super competitive or anything like that. So Eli didn't really like me that much because I read a lot of books. I did a lot of the nerd things. I was really good at academics. I really enjoyed academics. We just didn't enjoy any of the same things. I was honestly, for a long time, I was closer to his sister. Ainsley and I, Eli's little sister, did theater together for a while. And it wasn't really until my sophomore or junior year of high school that Eli and I started getting close. And I don't even remember the reason why. I think genuinely we just were all hanging out together because, you know, Eli and James were really good friends, and Ainsley and I were really good friends, so we were just always in the same room. And then our families started getting really close together because I also became friends with Eli's older sister, Kaya, because she also did theater with Ainsley and I, and then we were just in the same room a lot, and eventually we just started becoming friends, which is so silly. Like, I don't even really know how it happened, but genuinely, we just kind of stopped being so different from each other and started finding out that we did enjoy some of the same things. Like, you know, we both like playing Minecraft. He discovered that at that point, I had gotten a lot more athletic and fit, and, like, not that I wasn't before, but I had really, like, grown into that culture of, like, exercising daily and pushing myself, and even though I wasn't, like, an athlete in the traditional sense, I played sports, and I was putting in a lot of work in that area, and he saw that and respected that. And then he also got more and more open to theater. He's never performed, but, like, he even got to the point where he would be doing technical work, like behind the scenes work for the shows, because they just needed hands to move set pieces and things like that. And so he would be backstage doing that. And I think we also both just got more mature. Like, you know, we kind of grew out of this clickiness that was like, oh, you're an athlete, I'm not going to talk to you. Oh, you're a theater kid, I'm not going to talk to you. And we just started becoming friends. We realized that there was so many things different about the two of us, but we also both really loved Jesus and really loved working out and really loved music and really loved video games for the most part. And we just started we started hanging out by ourselves. Like, you know, it wasn't, you know, me and Ainsley and Eli was just there, or James and Eli and I was just there. Like, it started becoming like Eli and I were like, hey, let's just start hanging out. And for whatever reason, like, you know, I believe genuinely it was the Lord doing it. Like, we became really, really good friends really, really quickly. And we really quickly became best friends. And my senior year, we went on a trip to New York City and Boston for our senior trip, our class senior trip. And Eli and I were together the whole time. Like, you know, there were definitely times when we weren't, but, like, we would always be checking in, like, hanging out. Like, we, for whatever reason, we're always in the same room together, because I think neither of us had a parent on the trip, so we were always just thrown in with whoever had a parent, which was kind of fun. And then I think it was senior year, Eli and I started the Waco Boyz, because we loved to hang out. We would, you know, do stupid challenges and play fun games, and, you know, we videoed a lot of that stuff, and just for fun, just for the memories. And Eli, one day, I remember being like, what if we started an Instagram account? Like, I'm not going to say we're going to get famous or we're going to be able to make a lot of money, but what if we could make money? Like, what if that could be a method of making money while we're in college? And maybe it won't go anywhere, but what if it does? Like, what if the Lord has something for us there? And I was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. So we started the Waco Boyz. We started as an Instagram account, and then we grew to TikTok, and then YouTube, and finally Facebook, which we started just recently, and we just hit 1.1k followers, which is crazy. We started the Waco Boyz Gaming not too long after that, and have been just continuing to upload videos. And genuinely, I don't know if Eli and I would be as close as we are without the Waco Boyz. So I just want to say a huge thank you to anyone who watches our videos and who supports us. And even if you've just watched one video and are like, oh, hey, I recognize those guys, or you are watching every video and contributing to every single view that we get. We're not even really making a lot of money. We're making probably a few dollars per month, but it's still a huge blessing and a thing that we believe in and we love doing. And it has genuinely brought us closer together because it has forced us, like when we've been going to different colleges across the country from each other, to call each other and talk to each other and plan this out, because we genuinely are treating this like a business and want to run this like a genuine business. And so it's just been so beautiful to get to see the way the Lord has brought us closer together. And genuinely, we're closer now than we ever have been. Partially because we just have continued to push into that relationship and put work into that relationship. But also, like, the Waco Boyz is at least a commitment that keeps us accountable to talking to each other. And so, we're always brainstorming what are things we could do, how can we get together to film these videos, because genuinely it's so impossible to make content when we're not together, because the whole idea of the Waco Boyz is two best friends doing stupid stuff, and it's really hard to do that when you're not in the same space as each other. But it forces us to really be creative and use our brains together and use our unique set of skills that we each individually have, but also like our joint passion for content creation and being creative and things like that, to both worship God and also entertain the people, create content that's actually high quality and that we think people would actually want to watch. So that's kind of the story of the relationship. I think one of the biggest tests of a relationship is when you find a romantic partner. I think that sometimes it's really easy to kind of ditch all your friends and not care about anyone when you have someone to be obsessed with. But genuinely, like, Eli and I have both had girlfriends through the time that we've been friends, and we have definitely gotten along throughout the whole thing and supported each other. And yes, there's seasons of, like, we definitely have our weaknesses as humans, but we've been able to hold each other accountable, and it's really cool to watch how each of us has grown. Like, we had so many late night talks of, like, talking about our relationship struggles or things like that, but also even just like, I've talked to Eli and been very open with him about my anxiety struggles. Like, our families are very different in a lot of ways. We love each other. Our families are best friends now. But we also have a lot of differences, and one of those differences is like medication, our approach to medication. And that was something that, I went to Eli and I told him, I said, hey, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but like, listen, I'm now taking medication for anxiety, and I just wanted to tell you because I want to be open and honest with you. And the way that he received that was so, like, there didn't even need, what's crazy is there didn't even need to be a conversation of like, hey, I agree with you, or hey, I don't agree with you. But he was just like, yeah, dude, like, I'm here for you. I'm praying for you. I'm with you. I'm not gonna ditch you as a friend. Like, I'll be here. And so it's really, really amazing, genuinely. And it's for me, I can speak from my side. It is such a huge gift from the Lord to have that sort of relationship, because what a beautiful thing it is to get to experience life with a best friend. I think a lot of people don't have that experience. And I would say, like, I think there's a whole logistical thing to saying, like, oh, I'm best friends with someone. Like, I think that can be exclusive, and that is not the heart behind that. Eli is someone I've just found that is truly a brother to me, like a brother in Christ. And no, he doesn't replace my biological brother. No, he's not my one exclusive best friend, but he is probably one of the people I am closest with in my life. So, and it's definitely a gift from the Lord to have that relationship. He challenges me in some really unique ways, comforts me in some really unique ways. The amount of times I've stayed up really late at his house yapping about crazy stuff, or even just like playing music. Like, we love to play music together, which is so random. But it's so funny. Recently, Eli's really been getting into golf. Actually, for like the past year, he's been really into golf, and I've been challenged in some ways because, like, my dad really likes golf. My grandpa really likes golf. And I have a lot of friends in my life who like golf, but I've never been good at it. I've never had an interest in it. But genuinely, Eli has gotten into it, and I've been like, I've been challenging myself to get better at it. I even had a live stream on the Waco Boyz Instagram account not that long ago where I was attempting a trick shot, trying to chip a ping pong ball with one of my dad's golf clubs into a cup a little bit away, and I didn't even get the trick shot. But it was such a really cool opportunity to be like, hey, I want to get better at this thing that Eli cares about, so that, you know, I can push him, and so that I can at least like invest in something that he really likes and really enjoys, and get to do that, which is really, really cool. And now he's going to a school a little bit closer to mine. I actually drive through the town that his school is in on my way back from rehearsal currently, which is so crazy. But you know, I'm really excited to go and watch his basketball games there, and you know, I hope he'll come see my theater shows. I think he will, but you know, we'll see what the schedule is. What's also crazy about the whole Waco Boyz thing is you only see half the picture, is the truth. Like, Eli and I do so many things outside of filming for the Waco Boyz because we want to make the Waco Boyz a very intentional thing, but we also want to make our friendship a sacred time where we're not constantly filming everything that we're doing. So Waco Boyz is only like half of the stuff that you see us do. Like, yes, like we do that dumb stuff that you would see during the Waco Boyz. You see the authentic Eli and Will and our friendship, but you only see half of it. Like the other day, we invented a new kind of game where someone would stand, me and James and Eli, he's been in a few of our James is my younger brother, he's been in a few of our videos, and we created this new game where one person would stand, I have a pool at my house, and one person would stand at the in the pool, to the very back of the pool, and somebody from the other side of the pool would have a volleyball, and they would kick the volleyball like they were kicking a penalty kick, and the person in the pool would try and jump and block the shot. And we made up a whole like rules list of what you're allowed to do and not do, and we even had, you know, the third person would stand behind the pool on the ground to catch any stray balls or anything like that would go over the goalie. But we genuinely played this game for hours the other day, and I even, you know, Eli's at camp right now, which is such a tragic time for me, but we even played that game with the rest of his family and some of my family, and we all traded out, and you know, it was a huge hit, and yeah, it's just a really, really fun time. We always have a blast together. And I do have other friends. Like, I want to clarify, like, a few things I want to clarify that are coming to mind right now. I do have other friends. I have other friends who, you know, I've met in college, and I have great friends in theater, and just friends from childhood, and friends just that I've met in random places. And obviously, like, Eli is not my only friend. I don't think that it would be healthy for either of us to just be friends with each other. That would not only be really exclusive, but also, which I'm against, but also just like probably not healthy in general. But it is really cool to get to be best friends and get to come back to each other. Another thing, genuinely, it's so crazy. The Lord always gives me an opportunity to realize how thankful I actually am for my relationship with Eli and my friendship with him, because genuinely it's so easy to take it for granted. Like, if you're experiencing a luxury or a blessing every single day, it's so easy to forget that you have it. It's so easy to forget that it's a blessing, you know. But you know, a good example of that is like clean water. Even like, there's so many people in this world who don't have access to clean water on a daily basis and have to worry about where their water is going to come from. But for me, like, I don't think about it 99% of the time, because I just have it. It's a blessing that I've been given that I don't have to give a lot of thought to. But genuinely, something that has made me so much more thankful for my relationship with Eli is not only our times at college, but even my time at home when Eli is at camp. Because obviously when he's at college, we don't get to see each other, but it's you know, my time is spent doing a lot of other things. But And I can always call Eli and talk to him, and we sometimes talk in the evenings and brainstorm ideas for the Waco Boyz and things like that. But genuinely, when he's at camp, not only is it summer, so I have a lot of extra time that, you know, I have to fill somehow, and also, he doesn't have his phone. He only gets his phone once every, week and a half while he's at camp, and he's there for a good month. So I have genuinely a whole month without any communication with my best friend, which genuinely kind of sucks. Like, you know, it's fine. I make it through every time. Like, it's not like the most horrific thing in the whole entire world. Like, it's honestly probably a good thing. It pushes me to not become dependent upon that relationship and instead to, be my own person. But also, it genuinely does suck sometimes, because there's a lot of days where I'm tempted to just like lay on my bed and rot in my bed and not do anything, or even just like go and just drink coffee and be bored and self-isolate, not out of trying to do that, but just out of like, I don't have someone that, a guy that I normally hang out with on a daily basis pretty much, or at least talk to on a daily basis. I don't have that interaction at all. So it genuinely does shake things up, but also reminds me of like, man, how blessed am I to have this sort of relationship, that I do get to hang out with this person and talk to this person on a daily basis. So it's just so awesome and encouraging. And that's actually the reason why I'm doing this series right now, where I'm posting an embarrassing video of Eli for every day he's at camp. That is going to go on for as long as he's at camp. There may be a few days I don't post just because he'll know that I've uploaded all these videos, but he gets his phone taken away the next day. So like, he can't really do anything about it. If he tells me I actually hate this idea, like, please don't upload any more of these videos, then obviously I won't. I want to respect that. But, hopefully there should be a lot more of those videos. So check them out. They're really funny. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. They're on TikTok. Go follow us. I'm not trying to be like, we're trying to get a lot of followers or anything. I'm just, promote the brand. That's what the goal is. We like it. I would watch my own videos, so we try to recommend it to people. Oh, I think another pivotal relationship, or another pivotal moment in Eli and I's relationship was when we really got to know each other, when we really got to know each other's faith. I think that we're both Christians. We both love Jesus. We both, go to church and have accountability in that way. But there have been two ways specifically that Eli and I have really grown, and it's going to youth together at Eli's church. I never really went to youth growing up. I know there's some families who are super diehard, like, you're going to youth, you're doing that. My family was never super diehard about that. It was just something that I oftentimes couldn't do. It was usually on Wednesday evenings, and I would usually have rehearsal on Wednesday evenings, so I just couldn't go most of the time. And then even when I could go, I just never really felt like I clicked with my church's youth group. I already had an established set of really great accountability friends, and it just kind of felt weird to be doing that on a Sunday evening instead of spending time with my family, which is what I normally would be doing. But, Eli invited me to go to his youth group at his church, and at first I was like, that's not really my jam. I've just discovered that's kind of not my vibe. And then I started going, and it was just the most beautiful thing, because I was there with my best friend, but I also knew some people from school or just from the community, but I also I got to make new friends, and also I got to hear Eli's testimony, and I got to hear him really talk about his faith in ways that I had never heard about before. And then, I also got to be challenged to open up and to share my faith in new ways, and it was just so cool to be vulnerable in that way, and that was one way that we grew closer to one another. And in addition to that, we ended up going on a summer camp, and it's just this huge gathering of a lot of different churches. And if you've ever been to church camp, it's always such a transformative experience. It's so good, it's so encouraging. But genuinely, Eli and I grew so much closer during that time, especially because he was injured during that time. He had injured his back doing something, and was having, couldn't work out a lot, couldn't even, he spent a whole day at my house literally just laying on the couch because he couldn't move. And so I spent a lot of time with Eli during that time, more than I even normally would, because normally we'd be we'd be living our lives, and then we'd hang out, and then we'd go back to doing whatever. But we hung out a lot those times because, he couldn't do a lot of his normal activities. So his family was doing those things for him. I was, I wouldn't say taking shifts. That's not the way I want to even think about. That's not the way I even think about that. But I was spending a lot of time with Eli because he was really bored, and so we hung out a lot during that time, and genuinely it was a time where I really got to support him when he was struggling, and also we grew a lot spiritually during that time. I really got to represent during the sports that we would play, and we both really just shared our testimonies. But it's just such cool experiences that the Lord has provided, and it's genuinely is all because of the goodness of God. Because even just describing this now, it's easy to be yeah, of course we're friends, but for a long time, we were in completely different worlds, and really shouldn't have been close to each other at all. We were just such different humans. But thankfully the Lord has brought us together, and now we're pretty inseparable. And I know that when we're adults and married and out of college and working jobs, we're still going to be best friends, and we're still going to be calling each other, and hopefully we'll still continue to make Waco Boyz content, or at least do projects together. So, if you have a best friend, or if you have somebody you're really close with, whether it's a sibling or a parent or just a friend, tell them you love them and remind them that they're special to you, because chances are they need to hear that. Most people need to hear that, if that's true of them, because there's also a lot of people who don't have that type of relationship with anybody, and they feel really lonely and really isolated. And there are definitely times when I feel lonely and isolated, regardless of my position with my friends. Those, I can be super close friends with somebody and also have struggles with loneliness and isolation. But man, the Lord is so good to have given me someone that I can call anytime and basically be like, hey, I'm really struggling right now. I'm feeling really lonely. I'm feeling really lazy. Can you encourage me? And he's there for me. So hopefully we'll get Eli on here at some point. His computer is so bad, it's really hard for him to play Minecraft. It is not a good situation, but hopefully we'll get him on here at some point to hopefully give his take of the story, because I'm sure he remembers things that I don't even remember. But that's kind of the story of that. So I hope that was encouraging to somebody. If you don't have a friend like that, just trust the Lord, because I know that he will provide. If that's one thing I've learned, going to a different college as my best friend, and having to make new friends, and having to do a different occupation than my best friend, the Lord will provide. So trust him, and he will give you exactly what you need. So I hope this talk was encouraging. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. God bless. Let's get back to the game. Yo, what is up, Big Avocado Squad? Welcome back to another talk hosted by ya boy, Willy Boy Stimson. Today, our topic is going to be something really fun, really controversial perchance. Our concept today is sports versus theater. They're more similar than you think. That may not end up being the title forever of this chat, but that is the whole idea of what we're going to be talking about today, because I have a really interesting theory that I'm really, really passionate about. There's a lot of things in life that I'm just kind of don't care that much about. I consider myself a pretty chill guy for the most part, but something that I will stick to my guns to and die on the hill of is that sports and theater are not that different. They are so similar, and I think that there would be a lot of athletes and a lot of theater kids who will hate this take, but I really want to talk about it, because I think even if you disagree, there is some really valuable discussion to be had around this topic. Because let me just give a little bit of background. I come from a small to medium-sized town in Central Texas called Waco, hence the name, the Waco Boyz, where sports could not be more competitive. Texas is arguably one of the most competitive places to be for sports, especially in, elementary, middle, and high school, but even for at the collegiate level and at the professional level, there is a lot of competitiveness in terms of sports. It's very highly competitive, and not only do we worship sports practically in the United States, we also worship sports in Texas. And there's probably some states that would maybe beat us out, but everything is bigger in Texas, so do with that what you will. And then theater is not as big in Texas. Yes, there's definitely some theater centers. Dallas is a big city in Texas that's very driven by the arts, very driven by theater. Austin is also that way. San Antonio. There's Houston. There's all of the major cities in Texas are very driven by the arts. There's a big arts culture there. But, generally, when you think of the arts, you're thinking Tennessee because of the music industry there. You're thinking New York, of course, because of NYC and Broadway and all of these sorts of things. And genuinely, at least in the little town of Waco that I grew up in, there's not a lot of art stuff there. We do have, collegiate art. We do have some competitive art, but most of the time you're having to drive up to these bigger cities. That's why I'm driving an hour away to go to rehearsal every day because, I wanted something that's paid, that's a little bit more competitive. And there's not a lot of that in Waco. There is professional theater in Waco, but there's not a ton of it. But a lot of my experience in high school was, the very stereotypical high school experience. Like when you think of High School Musical and the fight between theater and sports, that's kind of what it was like. The fight was not that vicious, but there definitely was, these two groups of people could not be more different. And so where does this theory come in that they're not actually that different? Well, I think as I've gotten older, yes, in high school, yes, in middle school, they're very, very different. But especially as I've gotten older, I've realized that there are so many similar aspects to these activities that you can do as a person. When you're a kid and you're going into these activities, like if you're going into theater, if you're going into sports, and especially if you're like, hey mom, hey dad, I want to do this at the professional level, I want to do this at the collegiate level, there's always a little bit of, ooh, is that gonna be realistic? Because genuinely, it's if you're, think about sports, I'll probably use sports a lot as an example just because it's what most people know. And I know enough about sports and I've been in the sports world enough to know some of these things. But the sports world, it's a very, very risky business to be in. It's a very high risk, high reward position because genuinely some people go on to be in the NBA, to be in the NFL, and they're making millions of dollars to literally shoot a ball into a basket. Whose dream, there's so many people that's their dream, and some people genuinely get to do that, but it is a big risk because what you're doing is you are committing the majority of your time and energy and even putting your physical body on the line and your mental, your mental game on the line in order to pursue a dream that is very, very statistically unlikely will actually happen. What happens to most people is they do sports up to a point, whether it's, through middle school, through high school, through college, and then they stop, at one of those levels that it just becomes unrealistic. You just either choose not to do it because you're like, that's not realistic for me. That's not what I want to do. I need to make money. I need to have a very sure job. So I'm going to go into business. I'm going to go into accounting. I'm going to go into, one of those majors or one of those professions. And most people quit. There is the percent that goes through and that tries to make it a living, and it just can't happen. You go through college and you're lucky enough and good enough to be able to have played in college, and you try and play whatever sport it is professionally, and you just can't sign with the team. There's just not a team that wants you, or there is a team that maybe wants you, but you're benched constantly, you don't make a lot of money, or it's like, hey, I'm getting married, I need to be able to make money to support my family. And a lot of people just isn't realistic, and they go into some other field. And then there's the 0.2% that is actually able to go pro and is wildly successful, to where not only are these people able to play these sports professionally and make a crap ton of money doing that, they become famous. They genuinely become celebrities. Think about the big football players, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, any of the Cowboys players, who they are, Steph Curry, LeBron James, you could name literally, any NBA player, and you know who they are, or at least have heard of them before. And genuinely, the same exact thing is true with theater. And not as many people know this because, at least in the place that I was raised, people are not as informed in the theater world, and generally the world as a whole is just kind of obsessed with sports, which is awesome. And so people aren't as informed about what happens in theater, but it is the exact same thing. You do it for fun for a little bit, and then some people just stop doing it because it becomes unrealistic. They want to do something else, whatever. There are an amount of people that are like, no, I want to do this, and they keep doing it, and they keep doing it, and again, at some point it becomes unrealistic. It's like, I'm not going to be able to make money with this. And then there's some people who, make it through the high school or collegiate or junior professional level, and they're like, I want to make a career out of this, and they just can't do it. They can't, get cast in a show or get booked on TV or whatever it is. Like they just can't do it, and so they have to find some other avenue of paying the bills and find something else that they love doing. And I don't, that might be my story. Who knows? Eli might have the same story in sports. We don't know, but there is the 1% of people who gets through and makes it big and is able to not only make millions of dollars and get to do a bunch of different projects, they also become celebrities and are sought after. I mean, think of literally anybody in the big theater world: Tom Holland, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pratt. Like any of these actors that you think of have gone through that way and somehow shot up to the top. Some of them are really good, some of them are really lucky, and it's genuinely the same thing as sports. I think that's genuinely one of the ways that Eli, my best friend who does the Waco Boyz with me, and I have bonded really closely, because genuinely we're doing kind of the same thing, at least socially, structurally, where we don't know if we're going to be able to do this professionally, but we are giving it our dadgum best shot. Like, we've both been able to make it to the collegiate level. Eli's playing basketball at a collegiate level. I am doing theater at a collegiate level, and we are trying to make this our profession. But we're also very realistic and know that we may not be able to do this forever. I know that I may get out of college and try and do the theater thing, move to New York, do the whole that thing for a few years, and then push may come to shove, and if I have a family or and need to support them, like, I may have to stop working at coffee shops and auditioning for shows and instead find a job that is not only more stable, but also makes more money so that I can support my family. And Eli very well knows that he may have to stop playing basketball if he does the thing for a little while and trains and is not able to get signed with a team. He might have to go into another field. He already knows that he has a big interest in real estate and is doing a real estate internship right now throughout the summer, and knows that might be a realistic thing for him, especially if he does get married, especially if he does have a family. That is something he might have to do instead of just keep pursuing basketball endlessly. And that's a reality that we're both facing and we both have to deal with. And genuinely, it's pushed us closer to each other and to Jesus, because we've really had to trust God that he has a plan for us and has us in this position for a reason. And additionally, we're in a similar social position. So we've had a lot of deep talks about, like, hey, are we going to be able to do this forever? Or are we going to have to face the fact that this is not where the Lord has us and he has us doing something different? And that's only to scratch the surface of this conversation. Like, genuinely, even just look at at a logistic surface level, basic level. In sports, you try out for a team, you practice with that team, you get a uniform with that team, and then you go in front of a crowd and play that game against another team. In the theater world, you audition, or in the sports world, it would be try out for a show or a team. You get cast, if you get cast, if you get on the team. You rehearse for an amount of time, you practice for an amount of time, and then in front of a crowd of people, you perform what you've been working on. The only difference between sports and theater that is immediately obvious is in sports, you're competing against another team. That is a pivotal aspect of what it means to play a sport. In theater, there are times where that happens at a high school level. There are certain competitive theater programs where you basically compete who has the best show, who has the best writing, whatever it is. That is, and you could name a lot of differences, obviously. Like, you could say, hey, in the sports world, you're outside, you have a helmet on. It's a very different, being in uniform versus being in costume is very different. Throwing a ball across a field and using strategy to try and get to the goal, like, is a very, very different practice than singing a solo and then doing a big dance number. Like, I understand that those are very, very different, and I want to acknowledge that, because I don't want to just go so hardcore on this and be like, they're the exact same, because clearly they're not. Clearly they're very different practices. There's a reason why, theater kids generally have their clique, sports kids have their clique. There's a reason why they fight all the time, but genuinely, the structure of these things is so similar. You even think, like, even down to the nitty-gritty of, like, in the sports world, you go to a locker room, you get on your gear, and then you go out and perform. Or you go out and play the sport. Same thing in theater. You go to the green room, you go to your dressing rooms, you get your gear on, you get your game face ready, you listen to your warm-up music. That is a genuine thing in theater, if you didn't know. You listen to hype music. Like, I listen to hype music in the car on the way there. I also, I show up early, I get ready, I do whatever it is that I need to do, put on, makeup if the show calls for that, put on my microphone, stretch, warm up. That's another similarity. You stretch. I mean, there are a lot of theater artists who don't stretch, but, like, I personally stretch because I'm running around a lot. And I listen to hype music. I put in my AirPods, I zone out, and I just lock in on what I'm doing. I'm getting myself ready. And even down to, and so theater and sports, while being very, very different, are so similar in a lot of ways. It's just crazy. And I like to have this conversation with people and like to really make this theory known, not so that I can just say, like, hey, listen to me, listen, I have this idea, listen, you have to acknowledge that this is true, that this is real, that this is blah. Like, that's not, like, I don't care if you disagree with me, if you think, hey, he's wrong about that, that's okay. Like, that is so okay. But I just like to talk about this because I think that generally sports and theater are so much more polarized than they should be. Like, Eli and I are a living testament that sports kids can be friends with theater kids, and it's such a big thing where it's like, no, they're too different, they generally hate each other, no, we don't want to be in the same atmosphere as each other. Like, no, I don't think that that's the way that I want to live my life, because how elitist would I be if I refused to be friends with any athletes and was only friends with theater people? Because genuinely, I think that there's so much to learn from athletes. Like, their dedication to exercising and practicing their sport outside of the time that they're actually playing is crazy. Like, I've learned so much from Eli, and genuinely, Eli has kept me so accountable in exercising and keeping myself fit, and I genuinely believe that I would still do those things. Like, I definitely would still exercise. Fitness is a very important thing to me as a person, but Eli challenges me in a very different way than I think anybody else could, because he's just constantly exercising, he's constantly moving, he's constantly working, because he's an athlete. That's just a part of who he is. And so it's really, really cool to, and also just to hear his unique perspective on life, because he sees life, we're both Christians, we're both very similar in a lot of ways, but also he's very different than me because he plays a sport and he sees life a very different way. Like, whenever he describes something, he describes it with a sports analogy. I don't always think that way. Like, yeah, I know enough about sports to get the analogy, but, like, when I'm thinking about life, I'm generally not thinking about sports all the time. I'm thinking about theater, I'm thinking about performance, and genuinely, it's really cool to have that discussion, to have those discussions that are different from each other. But also, we've both had really, really cool conversations about, like, what it means to play a sport, what it means to perform. Like, like, there's a lot of pressure sometimes that comes with that, especially when you're good, if you have a lot of talent. And especially in the high school level, Eli and I were both really good at what we did. Like, we're still good at what we do, but there's just a bigger pool of people. It's more competitive now. But in high school, Eli was at the top of his team, especially junior and senior year. He was the star player, the best at what he did, all of that, the whole shebang. And I was the lead in every show that I auditioned for, even if it wasn't maybe, like, the ideal cast for me. Like, I was always playing the lead just because I could sing the thing, I could move, I could act really well. And so we've also both gone through a season of humbling because, Eli has... because obviously it's more competitive now, getting to the collegiate level, and it's even going to get more competitive from there. And it's been a huge thing where Eli and I have had to be humbled and realize, like, hey, we're not the best. Like, maybe we were in high school, but there are new aspects to this now. Like, now, Eli may not play every position all the time and do it, better than everybody else just because he's on a team with better people, and he might have a position that he is the best at or better than every other position he plays in, and he gets to play that position a lot. And in the same way, I've had to learn, like, I don't get cast in every role anymore. I've had to learn that there are some people that, you know, my college wants for certain roles, and there's, you know, a lot of roles that I could do, but I just don't maybe fit for. But maybe I'm really good at this one role, and I get cast as that over and over again. And that doesn't mean that I can't play outside roles. And for Eli, it doesn't mean he can't play anything other than that one position. But it does mean that, like, you learn to play to your strengths. And also, through that humbling, Eli and I have been able to talk through that and just be like, hey, like, man, I'm really discouraged right now about being an athlete. I'm really, like, am I meant to be doing this? Is this something that I'm supposed to be doing? And in the same way, I've had to walk through that and be like, man, like, I'm not getting cast right now. I feel like I'm not good at this. Like, am I going to be, is this a thing that I should be doing? Like, having those doubts. And we've both been able to really encourage each other and be able to remind each other, like, hey, no, this is where the Lord has you. Like, the Lord will make it clear if you're supposed to be somewhere else. But for now, just, like, press into what you're doing. Do it with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and worship the Lord with it. And so that all to say, I think theater and sports are more similar than people think they are. There's so many aspects of the game and the show that are very, very similar, if not identical to each other. And I genuinely think that theater kids and sports kids should be better friends, because not only can we learn from each other, but I genuinely think that there's a lot of cool friendships that can come from those types of relationships, partnerships, friendships, you know. Again, a prime example is my relationship with Eli. We would not be friends except for the fact that we have siblings that do the same thing as each other, and we happen to be in the same room, and somewhere along the line we realized, hey, we really like hanging out with each other. We have similar interests. We like doing similar things. And we've become best friends and have a whole Instagram platform because of it. So, you know, if you're in high school, if you're in college, if you do any of these practices, I would challenge you to try and make friends with someone. Like, you know, it might seem impossible, but at least be open to it, you know? Like, if God happens to, if you're a theater kid and God happens to put an athlete in your way, don't be afraid to go up and talk to them. And you know, if they're a jerk to you and they're mean to you, just, like, that could happen, and realize that then that person, you're probably not meant to be friends with that person, but at least you gave it your all. And even if you're in maybe the business world, but you really don't understand how someone could be doing, I don't know, I don't even know what to say the opposite of business is, but if you're in the business world and you're like, I don't understand how someone could become a doctor, try and make friends with a med student, because chances are you're more similar than you think you are. And you probably have some key differences, of course you do, because you're pursuing completely different things. But you might end up being friends, and that's such a beautiful thing. And so I hope this talk was encouraging. If you have any thoughts, please feel free. I know this is a topic that gets me really fired up, so if it gets you really fired up, please feel free to leave your opinions below. I'd love to read through them. I'd love to brainstorm with you, to hear y'all's ideas. Even if you disagree, I don't mind people talking about their disagreements with me in the comments. Please feel free. Just try to keep them kind and good-hearted. I don't mind if you disagree with me, but if you try and beat me down as a person, that doesn't make me feel good. Or if you beat other people down, or attack people personally in the comments, that's also that's something that I'm not willing to tolerate. So please be kind, please be generous, please be patient and gentle with the people around you and with us, because we're also humans. I'm a human, Eli's a human. But we would love to engage in conversation with you guys about this topic, because it genuinely is so fascinating and so interesting to me. So if there's anything you have to add, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. We also do live streams every once in a while. We'll go live on Instagram, is generally the platform we'll do that on. So if you want to discuss it there, we try and generally post in advance. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it just happens. But if you see that we're live and want to ask questions about these types of topics, don't be afraid to do that, because I'll know what you're talking about. Eli will probably know what you're talking about, and we'd love to talk to you about these things. So I hope you have a great day. God bless. Let's get back to the game. Yo squad, Willy Boy here. Yeah, so this is kind of crazy. I did not anticipate that the footage was going to take 2 days worth of talking about life. That is not something I anticipated. That is not something I expected. But it is the way that it has gone since editing. These are the things that I guess you learn while you're doing this for the first time. So what I'm basically going to do is I don't really have a great place to just cut the footage. So I'm essentially just going to say thank you so much for watching the video. I really, really appreciate it. And I have a lot more content to talk about, but I'm going to save it for the next video because I don't just want to give you a ton of random nonsense all at once. So hopefully you enjoyed. Please let me know what you think. Again, this is kind of a new thing that I'm trying out, so hopefully it's fun, hopefully it's enjoyable, but if not, I would love to get that feedback. I hope you enjoyed some good talks and some fun Minecraft gameplay. Next up is going to be a massive, massive talk about relationships. So if that's something you're really, really interested in, join in the next episode when we talk about relationships. Willy Boy has some really interesting and very, very passionate thoughts about relationships. So tune in. It's going to be a blast. And yeah, we'll get this house finished soon. See y'all in a bit. God bless.